Imagine sending 5 text messages to realtors and getting 3 responses with no cold calling, no dialing. Today's guest, Paul Washington, he's a mortgage broker based out of the US, and he's gotten rid of the coffee meeting and instead invites realtors onto his podcast. And he's done some pretty clever things with this. I've been podcasting for 12 years, and some of the ideas he shared are stuff that I am not doing, but I'm going to copy. One of the things he has them do is the coffee meeting. He gets them on, makes them the hero, builds the relationships, and then turns into referrals. He's also uses a worksheet before the interview, which is really clever. He basically gets them to fill out this worksheet to get some info so that he can create really great scroll stopping content for social. So he'll take one podcast interview and turn it into 10 plus pieces of content. Very, very clever. I think you're going to enjoy this episode of my conversation with Paul. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. And each week I bring you guests and experts in our industry to help you improve your business. And my belief is that there's no problem in your business someone else hasn't already solved. Before I jump into this, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell is an amazing tool for Canadian brokers to engage their database and find deals that they're sitting on. And what it does is it takes your client, your database, sends a monthly report that gets incredible open rates. And then also it has a feature where it'll find opportunities where somebody's interest rate is out of the market and you can save them money. And it'll even craft what you need to send them to get them to pick up the phone and call you. It's fantastic. Check it out at ownwell.ca and check out this conversation with Paul. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So I got some questions I want to ask you about some cool things you're doing. But before we jump into that, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the mortgage biz?
Well, I'm a mortgage broker. Well, we call them loan officers. I'm in the States. And I've always been some kind of entrepreneurial person. I never really liked working for other people. And just through trial and error, when I was in college, I was actually selling cars in a Lexus dealer. And a dude came in, he was trading in a Mercedes for a Lexus. And I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm a mortgage broker." And I said, "I want to do what you do."
I heard that similar version of that where people are like, well, hey, what do you do? There's that movie with Will Smith where he sees the guy in the Ferrari or whatever. And he's like, what do you do? And I sell bonds, stocks or something. And,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's not, no, put it this way. He spent a few years in jail.
oh, why? So yeah, why?
Remember, this was before 2008 when everything was, going crazy.
It was the Wild West. If you went to jail prior to 2008, you must have been doing some crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Even more on that, which I'll get into later about why I started doing the whole podcasting thing. I learned it from you ever heard of Matt Cox?
Yeah, I heard the name.
Yeah, he was on American Greed for committing the largest mortgage fraud in the United States.
Oh, yeah, I listened to a podcast on him.
Yeah, true crime podcast. That's how I got the idea to start doing podcasting myself because, as a convicted felon, you can't get a job anywhere. And so a friend of his was making YouTube videos. So he said, well, you need to start a YouTube channel. That's how, so.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so when we had chatted, one of your superpowers is listening. So most brokers, if they want to pitch, what did you get wrong early on before you figured that out?
Talking too much and, sell. Whereas the whole idea is, even when people are trying to sell me something, if they do all the talking, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, okay, when is he going to ask me to buy something? Just get to the point,
Right.
Just get to the pitch. Whereas if they sat down with me and said, obviously you have this kind of issue in your business that caused you to contact our office or send us an email, tell me about it. Just let me explain it and then flip the script. That's what's helped me. I mean, like you said earlier, the podcast that I've listened to, 9 times out of 10, for real estate agents willing to meet with you, it's because they don't have any business going on for themselves. And then the first question to you is, well, what are you doing for marketing? And if waiting for referrals from your sphere of influence is your major marketing thing, I'd say you need to get a job. That's unpredictable.
Yeah.
You can't run a business that's without predictable source of lead generation. And that's actually why I built this referral system where the mortgage broker is a primary point of contact for a lead. Because again, there's nothing wrong with getting real estate agents to refer you business. But if that's your primary source of business, you're not 100% in control of your business. Someone else is.
Right. I'm going to come to that, the idea of the first point of contact, which is my next question. Before I do, first thing about pitching versus listening, that's how much you're talking. What other advice do you have or what other tactics do you use to make sure that you're doing a good job listening before you?
I never cold call people. All of my outreach are either through text or emails because I only want to connect with people that actually want to connect with me. I don't like that whole interruption marketing, which is what a cold call is. Because the first thing you ask them is, did I get you at a good time? Of course you did. Because I didn't call you. I don't really have a fancy way of saying it, but think of your whole sales presentation as a potential, not friendship, but a casual relationship with someone. Because again, you ultimately want to do business with people that you wouldn't mind having a beer with, or at least just having a casual conversation outside of business with. So all the bells and whistles and all the stuff, showing up with a fancy car and a Rolex watch. I mean, that's all nice. But I mean, if you had to, take out a second mortgage to do all that stuff, it's fake.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that they say if you're
Yeah.
telling, you're not selling. That's a phrase I've heard before, which is if you're talking too much, you're not going to sell. You need to be asking questions, uncovering pain points, uncovering opportunities, problems. You said that you don't cold call. So the emails that you send out, what's your stats?
I mean, I've never really done like an Excel spreadsheet, but I'd say for every 10, well, again, my most successful one has been my text messages. I'd say for every 5 I send out, I get at least 3 responses. And here's another thing. Again, we talked about this before the interview. I'll get a response, a positive response from my text message. But then again, when it comes to actually proceeding or taking action on what was in the text message, the procrastination still gets in. But at least that's a step further than doing the cold call to say, hey, let's meet to talk about how we can refer a business to each other. Click. I don't even get that far.
Right. So you basically, your entry point is a text or email, and you find text works best.
Text works best only because people live on their phones. Not everyone checks their emails. I mean, they'll get a notification, but especially like you're of a certain age, you very rarely check your email. You're all about text.
Yeah. I think you have a couple scripts, right, that you're going to share. I'll put a link in the notes so people can go get that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Because again, what I'm about to go over, don't take my word for it whether it works. I'd rather people test it out for themselves.
Right. So your entry point is a text or an email, and usually text works best before you even have to do the phone call. Explain to this whole idea of being the first point of contact in the home buyer's journey and how you're doing this. Because it sounds great. If you can be the one to generate the leads, you're the top of the chain.
Sure. Well, it's built on the age-old idea of coffee meeting. Hey, let's meet for coffee and talk about how we can help each other in our business. Usually when you do that, realtors get those calls every day. Loan officers make those calls every day and they get the same response. No, 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 no. I'm already working with someone. What I do is instead of asking them out for coffee, I invite them to be a featured expert, a market expert on my podcast. I don't have a podcast like you where I'm posting it to Spotify and hoping to get people to download or anything. No, all I do is I record meetings, post them on YouTube, and then I take those long form videos, basically a recorded coffee meeting, and I cut it up into clips of both the real estate agent talking, post it to my social media. And from those clips, I also record video clips of myself talking about stuff, but I do it in a way that's engaging. I don't talk about mortgage interest rates or stuff like that. Talk to people about where they are. And then depending upon the engagement that I get from my videos, I'm building a warm audience. And then from that warm audience, that's when I'll start doing some paid ads. But because it's a warm audience, I'm not spending $50 a day, $100 a day on ads. I'm spending $5 or $10 on engagement, on leads, on video lead gen ads that have already proven that people want to click on. The step in the process is to start a podcast. When I say start a podcast, it means you have a laptop, you have a headset or a mic, you have an internet connection. You have all the ingredients of starting your own podcast. All you need to do is find a place to record it. You can use Zoom. There's other platforms like what you're using, Riverside, which is what I use.
Yeah, use Riverside. It's best, in my opinion.
Record the interview, cut the long interview up to clips, give the real estate agent a copy of the entire interview, a copy of all your clips, let them post it there. So you're giving them value because at the regular coffee meeting, when you walk away with promises. Yeah, I'll send you some.
Right.
I'll send you business. Oh yeah, I'll wait by my phone. And nothing ever happens. Or you become a pest. You start calling them every Monday. Oh, Monday's my realtor callback day. Hey, working on anything new? Anything got turned downs? That got old really fast for me. And I said, there's got to be a better mousetrap. But more importantly, like you were saying, is that when I'm creating my own content that they're helping me create as well, I'm turning that content into warm audience, turning that warm audience into leads. And those leads come directly to me. I control the leads. I'm the one referring leads out to the realtors that help me create the content. But I'm becoming the first point of contact. I'm pre-approving them first. And then once they're pre-approved, I'll call the realtor back later and say, hey, Joanne, you remember 6 months ago when we did that podcast interview? Because Joanne hasn't called me back since then.
Right.
I got a couple of leads from them. They're already pre-approved. Can you help them out? And see, that's actually where I think the process should be. Because if you think about the regular process, Scott, especially for a first-time home buyer, when they're thinking about buying a home, they've been searching Zillow for the last couple of months. First thing they do is they call who? They call a real estate agent. And the first thing the real estate agent calls them and says to them, oh, by the way, have you been pre-approved for a mortgage? 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, no, not yet. Well, you got to get pre-approved before I can really sit down with you. So what's happened to the first-time home buyer? Well, their excitement's lower. They're like, oh, somebody would have told me that, but I would have done that sooner. Whereas if you're putting content out there that explains this to these people, along with the realtor, because then by you having a realtor on your channel with you, they're basically co-signing all the information that you're giving. In a way, so it helps you out because you control the lead. It helps the buyer out because it doesn't diminish their excitement because they know what to expect beforehand. And it makes the real estate agent's job much easier.
Right. Okay. I want to just repay back you so I understand kind of what the strategy is here. So instead of doing a regular coffee meeting, you're meeting with the real estate agent and you're doing a podcast style interview where you take that content, you give them that content that they can share. If they need to make content just like us, you create clips that they can share on their social. And then you're using all of this content to drive leads to you that you can then hand out to realtor partners. So they're going to get content created. You're going to get lead flow and everybody wins.
Right.
Right.
And here's the cool thing, because the podcast is done online, just like the way I'm interviewing with you. I'm in the United States, you're in Canada. A realtor can do this from anywhere. They don't have to come to a studio. And so they don't need any equipment because just like I'm recording a podcast interview with you just using my laptop and an internet connection.
There was something else you had mentioned to me before we turned the recorder that I thought was brilliant. So walk me through how you come up with the questions to ask, because your questions are designed to create social content. So walk me through what you did, because I think this is like pure gold. If somebody's listening to this, just grip your pen, write this down.
And again, everything I learned from trial and error, because again, I didn't wake up with this grand scheme. I tried something. It didn't work the way I thought it would work. By listening to the realtors, I found out what they wanted to hear. One of the big concerns was, well, what are the questions you're going to ask me? So I said, okay, I never really thought of that. Well, I'm a big AI person. And so just by trial and error, I will go to either ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, or one of them. And I'll just say, look, I want to do a podcast for real estate agents. Help me come up with what are some questions that I can ask them that will produce scroll stopping content for social media. And then through trial and error, it would spit out some questions. So what I did was I created a worksheet for the realtors to fill out once they agree to do the podcast. So they give me the answers. I just upload it to ChatGPT. And I say, hey, come up with 25 or 30 questions or the best questions to ask this person that, in your opinion, would help generate scroll stopping content for people researching home buying trends on social media. Something like that. I mean, it's not a perfect prompt, but again, that's what the cool thing about ChatGPT is. If it doesn't understand what you're looking for, you can go back and forth with it.
Right. My brain is going, oh, there's a lot of things I can do with this.
Of course.
I think that's a genius engineered for social, which I think is clever. Okay. So what's a piece of conventional mortgage marketing advice that you think is wrong?
Well, the whole realtor referral strategy, relationship, being dependent upon realtors to refer you business as your primary source of business. I've even had conversations with agents who are in those sort of like captive brokerages where they have an in-house lender. And when I say, look, the whole idea is for me to refer business to you. And they're like, what? They're like, I've never gotten a referral from a mortgage broker. I'm like, how long have you been in business? I've been in business 20 years. That's what
Right.
the lady told me. I've never got a referral from a mortgage broker. And I said, well, that's unfortunate. So that's why I said, when I got back into the business, I wanted to actually be in business, Scott, and you're waiting for referrals and not being in business.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. What is PartnerCast in one sentence?
Well, PartnerCast is my system that I've put together using this whole concept. And what I'll do is send everyone a link. You can go to partnercastmethod.com/free scripts with an S. And they can get all the scripts that I use to send out to real estate agents just to test out, whether or not what I'm saying actually can work. What I usually say is make a list of 25 real estate agents who you've never met before, but you would like to meet, and send them one of my text or LinkedIn outreach or emails and just see what response you get. Once you get a yes, let me know. I'll walk you through the whole first interview and I'll show you how to do the content yourself. And then you can take it from there. So I do have a platform where I can give ongoing support if someone wants it.
Right. Okay. I love this. If a broker has zero referral sources, zero audience, what's the first thing they should do this week?
Like I said, download those scripts, send out the emails. One of the things that I kind of make in my marketing for the PartnerCast method is that whether you have 1 day in the business or 20 years in the business, if you're not using a podcast to generate business for you, you're at the exact same starting point. Because this has nothing to do with interest rates, market trends. It's all about building a relationship with potential referral partners, creating content from those relationships, using their content to build a social media presence, and from that social media presence, generate high intent, low cost leads. Because again, you're in business. You have to spend a little money. I'm talking about $5 to $10 a day. And what's the average commission you'll make on a loan? At least 25, sometimes 10, sometimes $15,000. I think it's well worth the investment as opposed to sitting around waiting for the phone to ring.
I like that. So walk me through this idea of a single conversation with a realtor into content. What's the workflow? So what happens?
Well, like I said, I mean, it's the interview, create the content, post the content for free, see what gets any engagement. Then whatever gets engagement, you want to turn those into paid ads. And again, it goes back to the other point. What's a mistake brokers make in marketing? The mistake that anyone makes with social media marketing. They don't take the time to build a warm audience. They go straight from spending money, paying and blasting their message to a cold audience who doesn't know, like, or trust them. We're building a warm audience because you want people to know who we are. You probably heard of the saying, become the digital mayor of your town.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
It's that same concept, because you can target locally. You've done social media marketing before, correct?
Yep.
On Instagram. And I'll send you a video that explains everything. One of the biggest or the strongest points of the whole partner cast method system is we use what's called a universal pixel. Because the reason why most people fail at social media marketing is because, there's two ways to post on Instagram or Meta. You can post something and then boost the post. That just is a cold blast. Or you can install what's called a meta pixel, which is Facebook's way of collecting data on who's clicking on your ads, viewing your videos, and stuff like that. And it's aggregating all this information so that in the future, it can find those people, more people like that quicker, which means your ad costs go down. As a single individual, it's going to take you a long time to do that. However,
Right.
if we have 50 people using the same pixel, because as mortgage brokers, because of the specialty housing category, you can't target, specific demographics anymore. You can only target location. We're all going after the same person, either someone who wants to buy a house or someone who wants to refinance. That's it. And we can work with both of those people. So my point is, by everybody using the same universal pixel, instead of me having to spend $50 a day for the pixel to collect enough data, we're about 10 guys spending $5 a day. We're collecting the same amount of data, but each individual is spending less money so that as a group, we're lowering our ad costs and we're learning from each other. So we get to that data collection point where we find more targeted, higher intent ads quicker working as a group than we can as an individual.
Right. Okay. Question for you. Fill in the blank. Brokers who win in the next 5 years will be the ones who do what?
I say start a podcast because I liken it to the natural progression of advertising, going from print ads in the newspaper, radio ads, TV ads, website, social media. Podcasting is the next thing, man.
Yeah, that's so good. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think our guests would find useful?
I think, like I said, the biggest point that I want to get across to mortgage brokers is stop thinking you own your business if your number one source of lead generation is charity from other people. And that's what referrals are. I mean, don't get me wrong. If someone wants to refer business to me, that's fine. But that's the least scalable business model in any industry. So you have to be proactive in generating your own leads. That's the only way that you're guaranteed to survive. And by having a large social media presence, not just a whole bunch of followers who just follow you because you look good or you're wearing, certain clothes, but someone who's actually connecting with your content. If there's a recession in the mortgage business, who are they going to turn to first for advice? You'll survive. Whereas the person who's been sitting around waiting for a real estate agent to send them business, I mean, they're going to be working fast food.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so I'm going to put links to your stuff in my show notes so people can find you, links to your podcast,
Sure.
partner method.
I'll even give you my personal cell number. So like I said, if
Sure.
someone sends out, my scripts, they got questions or they want to take it to the next level and me walk them step by step, I'd be more than happy to show them how to do it. Because again, I want to really turn this into something big, because I think the way the industry is set up now, the turnover ratio is so big. And that's another thing I wanted to say is that as a mortgage industry, our companies give us every tool we need to close business. Loan programs, compliance guidelines, this, that. They don't give us any information about how to generate business except get on the phone, call 100 realtors, ask them for coffee.
Right. Okay, one other question from you. Where was the website that you said the scripts were? It was like partnercastmethod.com/
Partnercastmethod.com/free scripts with an S. And it should show up because I just indexed it the other day when I realized I was coming on this podcast.
Yeah, I found it. Okay, so amazing. We'll put links to all this in the show notes, man. I appreciate you, Paul. I've been doing this a long time, podcasting, but you've given me some ideas that I'm like, oh, there's some stuff I missed.
Yeah, if you got questions, Scott, man, you got my number. We can collaborate on some stuff, man. Because like I said, I'm trying to build this into something really scalable to where, ultimately I want to have a system where a mortgage broker, if they see something on the internet, well, this new tool, I have like former Go High Level certified people that I can connect with to say, look, can you build this for me? Can we integrate this into this system? Because a lot of tools that people get, it'll work for a couple of months or a couple of years, and then something new comes out, and then you want to charge you an arm and a leg for that. Well, why not come up with something that's customizable or breathable or able to grow as the industry grows? So there's no sense of saying, well, it's almost like the thing, like, the old television ads, like we're having, this sale on this car, but if you find a car cheaper, bring us the invoice, we'll match it. If you see a
Right.
tool that we don't have, let us know what it is. We'll build it.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
so good. Okay. Well, dude, I appreciate chatting with you. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. Pleasure meeting you, Scott.
Hey, thanks again for listening. And hopefully you got some inspiration from this with Paul. I know that when I had started back many, many years ago, one of the things I had this vision of creating a podcast network for mortgage brokers, and it was just too early. This was back when podcasting was not as popular as it is today. And we did get some traction with it, but it made me realize the thing about having a podcast is it gives you access to people. It creates content that you'd create anyway. It builds relationship, and it's like a backstage pass. I've always said this. It's like a backstage pass to connect with all the movers and shakers in your community. Hopefully you found some of these conversations enlightening. Also, every day, Monday to Friday, we run a mortgage mindset daily call. So we go take a book, go deep on, and we take that and make it useful for mortgage brokers. We get tons of brokers showing up to it. It's a great way to start your day. It's 6 a.m. Pacific. If you're interested in that, you can just search for that, go to our website or hit me up. Hopefully check that out. Thanks again for listening. And as I always say, there's no problem in your business someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is finding the answer when you need it. My hope is this podcast helps you find some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.